Hi, my name is Ron Evans of CADRE Construction. Thanks for joining us on this channel today. We try to bring you content that helps you bring your construction and facilities dreams to life. We are a family of companies in the great city of Austin, Texas. We're a construction company and a development company called CADRE Construction, CADRE Development. We also have a real estate brokerage company, Kudu Realty Partners, and we're being additionally sponsored by our architecture firm, Bluefin Design. We also own a commercial flooring company called Paramount Company and Floors. We appreciate the support of those guys. We are today going to talk a lot about the construction process, and I am joined by my business partner, Charbel Dahdah, in all of these companies. Charbel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Charbel really runs our construction company. I'm more the real estate development guy and the brokerage guy, and Charbel has the background in construction, so I invited him to come in and talk about this process. Again, every time we do these videos, we talk about how each one of these could be an hour-long video.
Absolutely.
So somehow we're going to try to summarize the construction process in 20 minutes.
That's going to be hard.
You think we can
give
do
it a shot?
Yeah, we'll go very high level. All right, so time out. Sorry. I'm going to do that intro again. Start the timer over. A couple of things I didn't say. Let me polish that up a little bit. All right. Hi, my name is Ron Evans of CADRE Construction. Thanks for joining us here on our channel. This is an instruction and education and hopefully fun channel, all about general contracting, development, real estate in the commercial world. We are... I used to have my little intro back there.
Yeah. You did great.
Yeah. Hold on. We're going to go one more time. Wait. Thank you. Yeah. We're going to go one more time. Hi, this is Ron Evans of CADRE Construction. Thanks for joining us here on our channel today. This is a series of videos that we're doing that are hopefully educational and instructive, but also hopefully a little bit of fun. We're a family of real estate companies located in the great and weird city of Austin, Texas. We do real estate construction, development, investing, and brokerage all over the state. We're joined today by my business partner in all of these companies, Charbel Dahdah. Charbel, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Charbel runs our construction company. Hopefully in the near future, we'll have our business partner in our architecture firm, Warren Ince, join us and do some videos from the architecture and design side. We also own a commercial flooring company called Paramount Company and Floors. But we're talking today really about the process of general contracting. And we're going to boil that down as best we can into a 20-minute video where we could sit here and talk about it all day and all night and still not, scratch the surface.
We'll give it a shot.
Give it a shot. So, Charbel, let's talk about let's think about a project that would be pretty common for us. A doctor or a group of doctors wants to build let's go with a veterinarian route. We do a lot of veterinary facilities in addition to human healthcare. Mm-hmm. So instead of the industrial stuff we build or the kind of the churches and the schools, let's focus on a ground up veterinary emergency hospital. We've done a bunch of these. We did one recently in Leander, Texas. Mm-hmm. So somebody comes to us and they don't even have the site picked out. They want us to help them with that. We go through that process. We find the site. We help them finance it and design it. Let's get past that and get to that construction process. Mm-hmm. Where do you and your team as the general contractor on what we're going to talk about, a design build or design assist, mm-hmm. meaning we got hired up front to be the partner from the word go, right? We're not bidding against other GCs. Their plans aren't done. They want us to help them with all that. What happens during those early days of planning that the general contractor, where could we add value?
Yeah, great question. Because we have a lot of experience so in this example is the veterinary side, we have a lot of experience in building these asset types mm-hmm. And also help designing these asset types. We know the professionals that have done a great job for us on the design side. As the GC crew, as a construction crew, you're only as great as the drawings that you get. Though that's the first and initial, as well as you're only as great as the subcontractors you put on the project. But we want to increase our success rate as much as possible by having the proper consultants and engineers and architects in a project type that they have a lot of experience in. So in the veterinary world, we can easily help with providing those introductions with the civil engineers and, of course, the architects from the initial process. So we can help interview and help orchestrate which consultants are best fit for this project. Once that's selected, once they've been contracted and so on, we're there to assist throughout the whole process. So as the civil engineering group starts designing, we can help them try to figure out, does it make more sense to have this type of slab? Does it make sense to put the slab over here? We can help with what we call a cut and fill analysis. So every site is different. Every site's going to have different soils, subgrade, terrains, you name it. Every one of those has to be designed specifically to that building that will be on that site. We could help by partnering in with them early on and analyzing what is going to yield the most savings, just even on the initial civil side. And then you replicate that throughout the whole architecture design process. Well, it's what we call our pre-construction process.
Okay, so what you're saying is, I guess my question back to you, kind of the devil's advocate, would be, why, if you've got a civil engineer, you've got an architect, the civil engineer is going to be designing the site plan. So you're talking about cut and fill. That's taking out bad dirt and putting in good dirt, right? There's somebody doing core drillings to analyze the soils. There's an architect who's drawing these plans, the building and the interiors. I guess that devil's advocate question would be, well, why is a general contractor part of that? So take just one aspect of it. Take the exterior of a building. What's the general contractor doing when the architect's designing that building?
Yeah, good question. And this is where the value really comes in, not only in the architecture, of course, but in the civil side as well. In this specific example, architects may be designing, and bless them, they do a great job of what they do. They're designing from a aesthetic and scientific approach of how to build this, how to design this with meeting all local codes. Is it going to be functional for this specific veterinary use? Is it going to look beautiful and great and grandiose and so on? Where the general contractor comes in and they add their value is time and money, to say the least, at least those two. Time being, we can help source material that are local to this marketplace. We can help source material that are as efficient and inexpensive as possible. Where the architecture group may be designing to a very high-end luxury style brick and stone and so on, and metal panels. They may be budget busters, they may be budget killers. So we can provide some examples, we can provide some samples, we can provide some intellectual knowledge of experiences that we've had throughout the years to pick something that's readily available as well as fits the budget. So.
Wasn't on the Crystal Falls project, just that one I just happened to have mentioned, wasn't there an issue with some pre-ordered materials that had to be identified very early on? And had we not been brought in under a negotiated contract as part of that team early on, that would have been missed?
Yeah, good call. We often do run into material lead time issues. Pre, during, and post COVID have all had different timelines for any specific type of material. But one of them is electrical switchgear. That's a big one that we keep running into. We're able, because when we are the design assist general contractor, our pre-construction team dives in, roll our sleeves up as these drawings become more and more factual, and we'll talk about all the different phases of the drawings. We can order materials quicker rather than waiting for the full design to come out. And by that time, a 26 or 36 week lead switchgear set will absolutely kill your schedule.
Correct. Okay. So the project starts really with visioning, right? Goals, objectives. And we as a general contractor love to be there for that part because, again, the architect is going to do the visioning of the facility itself and the look and the floor plan and the materials. The civil engineer is going to be, we call him the architect of the land, right? So they're designing the site, but we're acting in that role of, is this material, can it be ordered in time and not bust your schedule? Can it fit your budget? So we love to go through that whole process. What are the basic phases of the architectural plans? Just hit those at a high level.
Yeah, both civil and architectural plans, really 3 phases. You could break them down in a much more, but not including what we call just the conceptual. It's it's just a rough idea where we want this building to sit and so on, or how we want this building to look. The first official set that we really look for is what we call the SD. It's the schematic design. It's not a lot of detail, but at that point, we've established this is the site, this is where the building is going to sit, this is how tall and wide the building is going to be, and here's some of the key functions that are in it. Some schematic designs are well drawn out. Some schematic designs are barely in your drawings with more of a narrative of what this building needs to include. So our pre-construction team, with the help of our subcontractors and our vendors, will help put together what we call a preliminary budget based on the SD set. Fast forward, then you have what's called the design development set. Design development, rule of thumb, kind of a gauge, you're about 50% complete with the drawings. Now, you may have a very well thought out architectural set. It may not have a lot of MEPs, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings that are associated with it. Again, you still may have a narrative, but at this point, we have a little bit more tangible drawings and facts to base budgets off of.
So another pricing exercise?
It is another pricing exercise. That's probably the second or third pricing exercise that we would have done by this point. And then the last and final, assuming the design development phase goes as planned, you tweak it, you modify it to fit the budget, we have what's called the CD. And this is the construction documents phase. This is what will eventually be submitted to the city and all jurisdictions for permitting. So all the ordinances that need an approval, the CD phase is what goes into their possession. And then this is what you also base, assuming there's modifications, your final estimate by. So if all goes well, the pre-construction team has delivered a model on the SD set that ties into the DD set. It's close in line with budgeting, if it's all going together at the same time, as well to the CD phase. So there should not be major swings.
And at that phase, you're getting what we refer to, most people have probably heard that term, you're getting hard bids from the subcontractors and going under contract with them. You're choosing one.
Exactly.
You're interviewing 4 electricians and you're choosing one at that point. But you've talked to subs along the way, even at SD and DD phase, right?
Absolutely. And that's I think that's probably a big myth is, when owners up front who may not have had a lot of experience in, building a ground up project or facility, when you try to partner in with them early on, some folks think you just make up numbers as a GC and, how does this GC know what this is? How do I know I'm getting the best value? How would I know I'm getting the most competitive numbers? Well, the truth be it is you're getting the best value and the best experience for this project. So come CD phase, we've put these projects out to thousands of subcontractors. We have different databases that, an avenue, if you will, or pathway that gets these projects, your projects, into their hands. Depending on the time, depending on the market, economy, some subcontractors are slam busy. They don't have time to bid 50 projects a day. So they pick and choose the ones that are most applicable to them.
And the GCs they like, I'm sure.
And the GCs they like.
Big part of it, right?
Ones that keep them busy, ones that keep them profitable. Because, you're going to want to partner in with a general contractor as a sub with somebody that has your interest as well, that wants you to be profitable. So with all in all, the big myth is GCs sometimes make up these numbers. Well, we don't. We send them out to thousands of subs, and we have all the backing that we like to present to the ownership group in helping choose and finalize the final subcontractors.
So what's profound, I think, about this whole discussion so far is I'm just reiterating kind of my intro, is that this is assuming the GC's involved. Exactly. I think anybody might, hopefully people are having this aha moment going, man, if I didn't have a GC on board for this, none of this is happening for me.
Absolutely.
I'm relying on an architect who's drawing something beautiful and amazing. We love architecture, right?
Absolutely.
Their role is incredibly important. Or a civil engineer who they're like scientists. They got to get their calcs right on everything that's going to make that site a buildable site. But none of this is happening without that GC in that design assist or design build role where they're overseeing all of this, creating these budgets.
Exactly.
Okay. So that then segues into that's happening while at some point permitting is happening. Are those, when does permitting come into that into that process?
Yeah, good question. Again, depends on the project type, but many months into the design process, once the CD phase is put together, that goes into the permits, all the jurisdictions that would review it.
And what would those jurisdictions be? Give me some examples.
Yeah, so depending on where you're at, let's use Leander for example. Leander, you submit all your drawings into the city of Leander, where some jurisdictions that may be in the ETJ outside of the city limits, you would submit your possession or your drawings to the fire marshal, maybe the county, if you have septic in play, maybe LCRA, maybe Travis County, you name it. But there's not a city per se that you would take your drawing sets to obtain what we call a site development permit. But in a city like Leander, BK, Boston, you name it, those are going into essentially one building, and those permit officials review that. So they may have the fire marshal, they'll do their inspection, or they'll do their review, excuse me. Then you'll have the building official doing theirs, and then environmental, landscaping, and so on. So there may be multiple jurisdictions inside one building, where an ETJ may have different buildings, different avenues, but
even if you are in the city, we've got a big 22-acre development and construction project going up on that has, it's got a tollway authority that we had to get approval.
CTRMA.
Yeah, the tollway authority for the entrances and the decel lanes. On the backside, we have a TxDOT authority. So that's the Texas Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Okay.
That became a tongue twister. It shouldn't have. We've we've got the city, but you've got the state of Texas for environmental quality, TCEQ. Like you mentioned, sometimes a project doesn't have sewer, so you could have septic. So all of this is happening once the civil set of plans for the land and the building set of plans for the building, they have to be complete before those are submitted, correct?
Correct. And it depends on which jurisdiction you're going for first. You can't get your architectural permits without your civil. Civil can go in and architecture can follow in some jurisdictions, Leander being one of them. You can't get your architectural permits approved until your site development permit's approved. But you have to also submit what we call your elevations that have to coincide with your site development permit for the city of Leander to approve that site development permit. You can't submit and get a site development permit unless you have TCQ approval. So there's a lot of pre-requirements and requisites that have to be properly coordinated, sequenced, absolutely, before you get your absolute final approval.
And just drawing out a few of those little hints you were throwing in there, you've already kind of talked about some of these timelines. You could be 3 or 4 months easily into your plans, and then several months into, say, a site development permit, and somewhere in there, maybe starting a little later, your architectural permits. You could be a year into something like this easily before you break ground.
Easily, absolutely. Larger the development, obviously the more obstacles and review that will happen. But yes, a small standalone build to suit, let's say 10,000 square foot or less, it could be well within a year.
Okay, so we've helped the client visualize the project, established goals, talked about, everything from financing to schedule. Maybe they're moving out of an office they already have and into this new facility we're building for them. We've gone through those early phases of SD, DD, CD, civil engineered plans. Now we've hopefully gotten permits in hand. We kick off construction. What does that process in just a very high level look like that first month? What would the owner expect to see?
Yeah, good question. Assuming, as you state, we have our SD, site development permit, and we have our building permits. First month, because we've been on board for this whole pre-construction process, assuming we get the permit on day number 0, before then, we've already released our key subcontractors, if not all of the subcontractors, which helps save time rather than have to wait until the end, then get it revised, then do some budget modifications to get it back to budget value engineering. Assuming all that's gone into play, we're there. Day number 0, we've called in what we call our SWIP, erosion control. We set out our surveying. We get our erosion controls installed. It's essentially, you guys have probably seen it. It's the silt fence, about 12 to 24 inches high. It keeps all the soil contained in. Once you have that,
lets the world know we've started, right?
Lets the world know we've started. Most cities will require that before you have what we call a pre-construction meeting with the city. So permits in hand, silt fence is installed. Now we have an official meeting with the city. They want to get that done before you start moving mass amounts of dirt.
What happens in that meeting?
It's when the city comes out. They'll come out with some of their different reviewers. Sometimes it's the fire marshal and the building inspector, the head building inspector. Sometimes it'll be with the environmental inspector. They'll come out and they'll essentially speak about their rules and regs, what they want to see done, where are you putting your construction entrances, in case of an emergency, how does a fire marshal access the site, It's everything you think of in the construction world that the city needs to see from a safety and code compliant
Who's at that
standpoint.
meeting?
Typically, what we like to do is we like to have as many subcontractors that have a role in this. So not only our superintendent on the general contracting side, that's the person, he or she, that's out on the site day to day, boots, getting buddy. They're the people that watch and monitor this project from start to finish, from sun up to sundown. We'll have our project management team there as well. They're typically more the office staff that helps coordinate the construction process for that project. We'll also have our key subs. Typically, it's our dirt contractor, our utility contractor, sometimes sprinkler. And these subs will have a large part in what the city needs to see on the pre-construction standpoint.
Is the owner there?
The owner can or cannot come. It's a preference. Typically, it's a 50-50. On our projects, obviously we're typically the owner, but on the third-party projects, pretty rare to get the owner out there. It's not an absolute must. It's because they trust us. They know what we're going to be doing. Yes, it's great to have the owner there to show some extra face and credibility and trust.
So let me ask it a different way. What meetings on site would the owner normally be in, or on site or on Teams or on a call? Where's the owner get involved?
Yeah, good question. So the owner at this point has been heavily involved, if you will, throughout the design process. We've submitted the permits. We've got the permits. Now we break ground. We want to always include and communicate with the owner on a regular standpoint. During the ground up portion, when we're on this, before we've framed the building in and dried in, and now we're seeing a lot more things. Typically, the owner is on what we call an OAC, owner, architect, contractor meeting. We conduct those.
Owner, architect, contractor.
And contractors. So we have all the teams that'll also include the civil engineer. We'll have all the teams that are applicable to build this process together either once a week or every other week or perhaps once a month, depending on the size and the amount of activities happening at that time. But we always want the owner to communicate as much as possible with our team so we can both set these expectations of what's going to happen, what is happening, and what has happened. Last thing we want is anybody to get caught by surprise that we're about to be complete, or maybe we're hitting a major milestone and the owner has not had the opportunity to either walk their staff or walk their partners into this deal and not understand, wow, this is really where I wanted my exam lanes, not over here, or I wanted a sink, didn't have the opportunity to add a sink, so on and so on. So typically we try to communicate with the owner officially once a week or once every other week.
Okay. And so there's other things happening. Obviously, there's inspections by the regulatory authorities over the project, and that's just routine inspections, whether it be plumbing inspections or framing inspections.
Absolutely.
Right. You and your team as the general contractor are scheduling those, or the architect is scheduling those?
Yeah, great question. That's another key component I may have left out.
I felt good about that question.
That was an awesome one. During the pre-construction phase, most often the city officials will come out with a sheet of paper letting you know these are the types of inspections we're going to look for at a minimum. Now, we love inspections because it's an extra set of eyes that helps everybody sleep at night. But we also recommend other inspections that the city does not require, like materials testing. Before we pour our slabs, we need to make sure that slabs be compacted properly. All the utilities that go in the ground, they've all been triple checked before they get covered up. So there's some things the city may not see or want to see, and different jurisdictions do it differently. But yes, there's inspections. The general contractor is responsible for passing these inspections. So we like to take the opportunity and responsibility to actually call them ourselves. Now, we may divvy this up amongst the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades, whoever may be applicable, but the general contractor is the one who facilitates the inspection process and when to get inspected.
Sorry. So you mentioned additional sets of eyes. We call it accountability, right? We love that. So the bank is sending their inspectors out, the client's lender, right? The client's got eyes on it. The civil and the architect have eyes on it. The regulatory authorities, especially the city, right, and their inspectors, they have eyes on it. Our project manager and their team, the superintendent, they have eyes on it. So there's a lot of scrutiny into a project like this. We get through the construction and the loan draws, of course, every month. There's loan draws that fund us. And we talked about this in the last video we did, where that money comes in, we turn it around and pay the subs with it, right?
Absolutely.
And so they're all being we're keeping eyes on the subs every month. We get through this long process. I just simplified 12 months into the blink of an eye, right? We've built their building. What does the end look like? Just summarize, we would call it closeout, but there's other terms. What happens at the end?
Yeah, great question. The end is probably actually one of the hardest parts. It's getting started, I think, is easy. It's the final completion is what's tough, because that's where everything is right there in your face. It's all the aesthetics, it's all the paints, it's all the maybe some minor paint defects, the things you need to get what we call punch list, punched out. The end of it is the most fun as well, because it's right there. You're seeing the final product, that has come to life. The owner's about to occupy it. So we have to obtain what's called a certificate of occupancy, the old famous CO word. So the certificate of occupancy, that means all of our inspections have passed. We've installed exactly what needs to be installed. Now we have the CO. Now the owner can officially move in and start occupying the facility. What we like to deliver, what we do deliver, is what we call a closeout documents and then closeout process. So there's things that the city wants to see past the CO. Sometimes you have to put a maintenance bond up for any work that you've done in a right of way. Who does it? How much does that cost? Depends on every project type. But we will deliver all the warranties that are associated for that project.
You're talking about like the heating and cooling system.
Exactly. Some warranties, most warranties are 1 year. Some warranties will be 25-year or 50-year.
Yeah,
absolutely. So and you don't just obtain those at the end of the project. For example, you just mentioned the word roofing. We'll have the roofing manufacturer come out as we're installing, let's say, this TPO roof. Let's say we're doing a 400,000 square foot project. These roofing manufacturers have to come out. They have to inspect it, inspect the process. It's got to be an approved installer. So there's work that has to be done and sequenced properly before you obtain your proper warranties at the end, which are very valuable because things do happen. Say warranty items do come up from time to time. Not a lot, but when they do come up, you have this official piece of paper that lets you know these folks are standing by for anything and all that may happen at a minimum 12-month process. We'll come in and we'll take care of it free of charge.
And the GC would coordinate things like training the owner on
absolutely
systems that are installed in the building.
Absolutely. Some of these facilities, a little bit more technical than others, they may have some very high-end mechanical units, maybe an amazing lighting control system that it can be very hard to figure out, but once you figure out, you're great. So what we like to do is conduct the owner's training. We'll put together an agenda of all of the specialized materials or equipment, and we will record it with the owner. So that way, in 6 months, when they forget how to modify the lighting control system, not only do they have a manual that we'll deliver that shows you how to do it, but we'll also have a video that shows you how we modified it together on site. So you can go back and reference that.
And then, of course, there's the closeout of the financing, right? So there's that last draw and then retainage, which is the money that's held back to once all this is done, that last usually 10% is released. And then I think maybe the very most important step is the owner likes it so much that they ask us to do another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we go
another
and another, just repeat business.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the front of the project is just as important at the end. You've got to close it out properly, make sure everything and everybody is paid, and move on to the next.
And it's fun, but that's such a stressful last 30 days, right? I mean, because there's so much to do. Everything comes to a head, right?
It is, absolutely. Everybody wants to move in as quickly as possible. We understand that.
It's the last bit of money. It's the last few days in the schedule. It's, it's the punch list. It's everything happening. Right?
Absolutely. And it gets a little bit nerve-wracking, if you will, where the officials come in. You're hoping that they're going to approve everything that we all agreed to was in the drawings that the city approved. There's been some instances where the city officials come in and they wanted to add something that was not on the drawings. We were successful in, fighting that off or arguing, what the proper solution was. But yeah, however, you're at their mercy at the end of the final project and the final items.
Awesome. Charbel, thanks. I think I'm learning a lot. Right?
I appreciate it.
Hearing you talk.
Great to be here.
So thanks everybody for joining us. It's a lot of fun doing these. We hope you got some value out of it. In the comments below, feel free to ask questions. We'll try to review those and respond back in the comments, or reach out to us through our website. We do have a way to communicate with us there. But look forward to having you on the next one. We'll be back with more material. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.